Welcome back to Smith Coding and Design. In the previous tutorial, we went ahead and did two 2D pocketing operations where we created the outline of the Pokeball, and then we finished op 1 by chamfering the top of the ashtray to break any of the sharp edges. Today we're getting into the second op, so we assume now we took our part out of the vise, we filled the Pokeball with epoxy resin, and then we put the part back on the vise to go ahead and clean up the inside of the ashtray. So what I'm going to do now is go to my second setup, and I'm going to add a 2D pocketing operation. I'm going to navigate to the tools, go to my Tormach library, and we are going to choose the 3/8 inch Gorilla Silverback. Select OK. Our speeds and feeds are 7,500 RPM, 30 inches per minute. That gives us right at 1.3 thousandths per tooth. Again, 3/8 inch end mill. No chip breakers on this. This is my finishing end mill. So what I will do now is go to geometry. We just want to select the outside of the bottom surface of our ashtray. So I'll select that contour now. We'll go into our heights tab. And again, so from the previous tutorial, we discussed a little bit about preventing the cutting of air so that we don't increase our machine time. So what I'm going to do, we know that all of this has already, all the material that's inside of the ashtray has been removed. So I'm going to go ahead and for my top height, I'm going to go to a selection and we're just going to select that top surface there. And then we will go to our passes tab. So I want to perform a finishing pass, and I want my finishing step over to be 10 thousandths. And the next thing I want to do is change my maximum step over to be 50% the diameter of the tool. So I will enter that now. Again, usually keep that between 18 and 75% the diameter of the tool, just to prevent any sort of cusp from forming while you're doing the pocketing operation. We do not want to leave any stock, and we will go ahead and enable smoothing and feed optimization. Okay, compensation type in computer is fine. We'll go to linking. Again, we will change our ramp clearance height to 20 thousandths. Again, just to minimize cutting air to save ourselves time. And we will change the lead-in sweep angle to 45 degrees and press OK. Our tool path should be generated for us. As you see, it's just a nice clean circular motion. So the end mill is going to helical in about 20 thousandths from the top of our bottom, and then just kind of go in a circular fashion or a spiral out, and then machine the sidewalls and kind of finish it all. So what we're going to do is go ahead and simulate that just to make sure we didn't do anything dumb. Press OK. And you'll notice that our stock did not update from the previous operation. So what I want to do is just right click in the setup, edit, go to stock, and I don't want from solid, I want from preceding setup. Press OK, check continue rest machining. Okay, and so now our stock from the previous operation has carried over, and so we will go ahead and regenerate the toolpath. And then we will right click and simulate the toolpath again. And this is why you always want to simulate, so you can find out any sort of mistakes you made before you actually try to machine on your Tormach or on whatever machine you're using, right? We want to prevent from damaging our part, our end mill, or our machine. All right, so now again, the stock updated from the previous operations. We went down, we're just spiring out, cleaning up the floor, removing any type of epoxy resin that we may have gotten on that top surface while we did our pour. So if I could go back, I actually wouldn't have done the second op here. I would have moved this cleanup into op 1, because when I used a syringe to fill the Pokeball with epoxy, it went much smoother than what I was expecting. And I didn't get any epoxy everywhere. I thought it would be messy. It wasn't. So we'll have some optimizations after the tutorial series over, just to discuss what I think could have been done, what I could have done better. Okay, so that's it for cleaning up the inside of our ashtray. So we'll go ahead and exit the simulation. And now what we want to do is get into our third setup. So this is where we flip the ashtray and we take the hat of material off the back. So what I'm going to do is just go and edit. I'm going to look at the stock again. We do have from preceding setup. I'm going to enable continue rest machining. Okay, and there are stock updated. Okay, so now we will get into op 3 and we're just going to cover the roughing. So we're going to remove most of the material away from the back of our part after we've done the flip. So we'll remove most of the hat of material. So what I want to do is just orbit real quick and show you guys that the probe point is the same for all 3 operations. That is the upper left hand corner of our soft jaws. Just a reminder there. So that's where our work origin is. And so now what I'm going to do is go to setup and go to 3D adaptive clearing. Okay, so it's a 3D operation, so Fusion will take into consideration our part geometry for us. We'll go ahead and select our tool. I'll go to my Tormach library. As you guys know by now, my roughing tool is the Gorilla Chimp Breaker. It's a 3/8 inch end mill, so that's what I'm going to select. Feeds and speeds are 7,500 RPM, 60 inches per minute. And that gives us right about 2.6 thousandths per tooth. Again, it's a 3D adaptive clearing. We can jump over to geometry. We're going to change our heights. So our top height is going to be the stock top, which is correct. We want to remove most of the material from the top of our part after we flipped it. Now we have to be careful with our bottom height, right? That's actually telling Fusion 360 we want to mill all the way to the bottom of our part after we flipped it, which is not what we want. We actually want it to be the model top, so the top of our ashtray after we have flipped it. We will go into our passes tab and we will change our optimum load to 30 thousandths. Okay, so everything there looks fine. And what I'm going to do is we will leave 0 stock on the sidewalls, but we will leave 20 thousandths on the top of the ashtray, just so we can come in with the shell mill and try to get a smooth finish. Okay, we'll now go into linking, and I will change the ramp clearance height to 20 thousandths. Just try to prevent cutting air to save us time. Okay, everything looks good. I'm going to press OK, and Fusion should calculate the tool path for us. It's a nice circular motion. We'll go ahead and simulate just to make sure that, again, we haven't done anything that could damage our end mill, our part, or our machine. All right, so I'm just smoothing along, and let me stop it here for a second. You can see that the top hat of material, that's a lot of material I'm removing. And that's because, again, I buy my stock at this point in time pre-cut, so I buy it oversized so I can do multiple projects with one size stock. So we are wasting a lot of aluminum there, but nevertheless, we are building the ashtray. So I will go ahead and continue, and I'll speed it along. So that is it for, again, cleaning up the inside of the ashtray for op 2 and moving into the op 3 setup, where we go ahead and remove the top hat of material. So now I'm going to exit the simulation, and what we'll do is we'll go ahead and jump into the machining on the Tormach, and there'll be one more tutorial after this where we go ahead and we finish up the third op, where we're just going to use the shell mill to face and then chamfer around the edge to make sure we break any burrs or get rid of any sharp edges. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and clean the inside of the Pokeball. So you'll notice the epoxy resin is poured, It looks nice and smooth, no issues there. Again, I used a syringe to get the epoxy inside of the channels that make up the Pokeball. We're just using that Gorilla Silverback end mill, just cleaning up any imperfections I may have left, and then going and also finishing up the inside sidewalls. So now we're going to go ahead and use our Gorilla Chimp Breaker to just go around the outside and clean up or rough out most of the top hat. Again, this is the 3D adaptive clearing, so we're just trying to go around and remove as much material as we can as fast as we can. Again, you notice the top hat on top of this ashtray is rather large, and again, that's because I buy my stock pre-cut so I can use the same piece of stock for multiple projects. So again, it's just kind of soothing to watch all the chips fly. So thank you guys for tuning in. Please like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next video.